Hey again. For this last writing skills video, we're going to be looking at the text that you read called Hunger in the World of Abundance because it is short but really quite complex. The first thing we're going to do is look at the sentences in the introduction, the first paragraph, and we're going to be looking for the verbs. Here's the first sentence. I have to take a deep breath. Despite living in an era of increasing abundance and production of greater quantities of food than ever in history, 1 in 7 people is still officially labeled as undernourished by the United Nations. I know that in the text it says 1 in 7 people are, but that's actually a mistake. So let's look at that sentence. First, let's take away the part that is surrounded by brackets. That's the part that says despite living da 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 da, and it ends with the word history. Let's look at 1 in 7 people is still officially labeled as undernourished. The reason it should be is because it says 1 in 7 people and 1 is singular. 7 people, that's plural, but the subject here is 1. 1 in 7 people is officially labeled as undernourished by the United Nations. Now, this long thing that comes in front of that, despite living in an era of two things, increasing abundance, and 2, production of greater quantities of food than ever in history, all that is just an introduction to the main clause. 1 in 7 people is still officially labeled as undernourished by the United Nations. That's actually a passive, and we haven't studied that. We can read it, but I don't expect you to be able to write it. Let's look again. The next sentence says, instead of decreasing starvation rates, comma, then thanks to the supposed benefits of intensive farming, comma, the truth is that hunger has been on the rise since 2014. So once again, the writer puts in a lot of words before he gets to the main clause. And that is the instead of decreasing starvation rates, thanks to the supposed benefits of intensive farming, take a breath. The truth is that hunger has been on the rise. So notice those two commas. I put them in orange here on the page to show you that those kind of commas are really like parentheses. They say that there's something extra here that the writer puts into the sentence, and it's the thanks to the supposed benefits of intensive farming. We can remove that, and the sentence makes perfect sense, and say, instead of decreasing starvation rates, the truth is that hunger has been on the rise since 2014. Notice the truth is present tense, and hunger has been. Why does he say has been? Because it is since 2014. The next sentence, the appalling irony is that the vast majority of the world's starving people are agricultural workers. I would actually say is agricultural workers, but I know that most people use plural right there because majority is actually a singular word. But most people use plural with the word majority, even though it's not absolutely correct. So the appalling irony is singular, and the vast majority of the world's starving people are agricultural workers. Naturally, agricultural workers is plural, and you can say agricultural workers are the majority. So there's a good reason for why he put the word are in there. Now let's look at the last sentence of each paragraph to see if we can figure out what the author is arguing. Usually you look to the first sentence of each paragraph, but in many cases, that's where the writer introduces his argument rather than concludes it. So we're going to look at the last sentence in each paragraph and the end of each last sentence. So in the first paragraph, in the second paragraph actually, it says, how can we explain that around the world 30,000 people die of hunger every day? How can we explain? All right, he's trying to explain it. He put that as a question, and he said, how can we explain that around the world 30,000 people die of hunger every day? My guess is, and your guess is, he's going to explain it to us. And he does. The first thing he says at the end of the next paragraph is that agriculture is an industry of tragic contradictions. Contradictions in agriculture. What's the contradiction? I don't know. Agriculture means producing food. Aha. He's going to argue that there is a contradiction here. And I want to find out, what is that contradiction? He says in the next paragraph, the end of the paragraph, he says that agriculture is part of promoting monoculture dedicated to export markets and not providing sufficient food for local populations. Aha! So this monoculture, whether you grow only corn or only rice or only wheat or only soybeans, that what you produce is intended for export. It's not intended to be sufficient food for local people. And then he says that somebody is deciding what is eaten and how much producers are paid. And those are the intermediaries he talks about. So then he concludes that with the right to eat becomes the priority. He's arguing it's not that we're producing too little food. It's that we're producing only single crops for export and local people don't have enough good quality food in a variety of foods in order to be healthy. So what is his argument? The question, do we produce too little food in the world? No. The problem is not food production, but food distribution. He says monoculture and food production is intended for export markets, not for local people. He says we need to focus on food sovereignty, having the right to keep and consume the food you produce. And that's the end of this little textual analysis video. I hope you enjoyed it.